Hello. So for my final project, I did a PD session. I did this with a couple of my friends that are also teachers, and I laid it out as if it were to like a larger audience. So I wanted to save this in case maybe one day I can present this to like colleagues and stuff. So I kind of just started off with like a general today's topic. I presented on digital tools and how we can support English language learners specifically. And then just what I need from you, be open, think about how these tools can apply to all of your students, ask questions, have fun. So I was shown this video at an ESL department meeting, and I thought that it's just a really good. I like starting out professional development sessions, like the ones that I've been to. I really like when they put on videos or TED Talks or stuff. I feel like that's really like inspirational, and I just really enjoy them. So this is just, I'll show you like a little snippet of my favorite part of this video.
All my students, you were chosen to be in my class. Because I am the best teacher and you are the best students, they put us all together so we could show everybody else how to do it. One of the students said, "Really?" I said, "Really? We have to show the other classes how to do it. So when we walk down the hall, people will notice us. So you can't make noise, you just have to strut." And I gave him a saying to say, I am somebody. I was somebody when I came. I'll be a better somebody when I leave. I am powerful and I am strong. I deserve the education that I get here. I have things to do, people to impress, and places to go. And they said, yeah. You say it long enough, it starts to be.
So next I kind of just went into some background knowledge on ESLs because I feel like there are a lot of common misconceptions. So I pretty much just talked to them about, like ESLs and language. Not everyone that comes from, or not every student that is considered ESL is speaking the language at home. A lot of my students in first grade come from Spanish speaking homes, but they don't even speak Spanish. So that gets really confusing and there's a lot of layers to it. But yeah, so I just went over some of the basics and just, it's not uncommon for families to deny ESL services due to fear or anxieties associated with school systems. And in order to exit from an ESL program, students must pass an English proficiency test. And then I just wanted to touch upon like the difficulties that ESL students face because I feel like they face a lot more difficult situations than English speaking students. ESL is still something that's fairly new and it's not really something that the country really keeps in mind as far as like curriculum and stuff. So, I'm sorry. These are just some facts that I presented, just things that I've seen, things that I've learned about in my ESL classes. And I wanted to just kind of include some data. I made this PowerPoint before the RICAS scores came out, but that was very telling as well about, ESL and how we teach those kids. And that this data is from my school in Cranston, and it shows that 44% are proficient in reading comprehension, 44% of ESLs. And then I just put a little slide, let me help. These are just some suggestions that I have. So my first suggestion is do not overthink or underthink how you incorporate technology into the classroom. So I feel like when you use basic resources, it not only provides language, it also provides the authentic experience that students need. And that's something we talk a lot about when we talk about reading comprehension and online reading comprehension. So these are just some examples, and I had them go on to VoiceThread and Google Translate and stuff, but I'm obviously not going to do that now. And then my second suggestion is more geared towards assessment. So we can't let language get in the way of how students show their knowledge. And I feel like this is also something we really talked about a lot, um, as far as like reciprocal teaching and the platforms that we use to allow students to demonstrate their knowledge. Um, so yeah, and just for an example, like I put in an ESL classroom, this may include students listening to a story online, but then they're drawing a picture of the main idea and sharing that picture with a friend. So them sharing that picture with a friend is an authentic experience. Them drawing a picture is allowing them to demonstrate their knowledge without having that language barrier. And I feel like a lot of times we get so honed in on using technology when it's kind of better just not to. And I feel like that is heightened when we talk about ESL students because they already have that language barrier. If they have that technology barrier, which is something a lot of my kids have, I am constantly having to keep that in mind. And then, be purposeful in the tools that you have students use. It's so important that teachers have a solid understanding of each individual student's needs. This is something that I have been practicing in my room. I am constantly pulling them one on one, and station rotation has really allowed me to do that. And if you asked me 2 months ago, I would have told you I hated station rotations. But now it's something that really allows me to get that one on one interaction with the students. And as far as, language and ESLs, BICS, which is, they say like that's playground talk, that develops at a much faster rate than CALP, which is the academic vocabulary that we use. And I think that that is something that really is important because, we learned in EDC 532 that we have to pre-teach vocabulary, and we learn about all of these strategies that, strong readers use. And it's a lot of the same ones that we would use for ESL. And then I just gave some examples of what I use in my classroom, and then I asked the people I presented to, like, can you guess what the general needs of my students are, even though they already knew. But and then I just said this is really important to note because I see this a lot, teachers not teaching the content. It is the teacher's responsibility to make sure that the ESL students are learning the same content as the rest of their peers, but by making the necessary accommodations. So I feel like this is where technology really is a teacher's best friend because it allows you to make those accommodations and support the needs that students have, making sure that they're learning that content. And, strategies are always going to overlap. Something I've learned in this course is that many of the strategies that we associate with strong readers and in reading comprehension are the same thing that I learned for teaching ESL students. Like multimodal presentations. Pre-teaching vocabulary is huge. Making predictions, clarifying, chunking material. It overlaps a ton, and it was kind of confusing at times because I would, when we isolate just reading comprehension and then we just isolate ESL, it's just crazy how much they overlap. It really is. But it's good too, and it's really good. So for reading comprehension specifically, I wanted to just include some resources that I have used and learned about. So the Children's Digital Library, I've learned about that in my ESL class last year. Starfall is something that I am new to. I've just started using it in my classroom. News ELA is something I learned about in ESL last year. The Show Me app, I used this. I have an example of it. I'm not going to go to it, but that would be, something that provides students access to lessons when they're not in the classroom. And I feel like that is making those accommodations that the students need. And then I just put a little note, like it's important to note that ESL students are going to understand English before they feel confident to speak. And then I allowed them to just go on and look at like any of the things I posted. Like that was the Show Me interactive whiteboard app that I used last week. And just some final thoughts. I really think that technology can be a breakthrough for both language and reading comprehension development together. And I really think that it's so important that you have a strong foundation in linguistics and you're able to really pinpoint what the student needs, because then you'll be able to support them better. And I think that finding and taking the time to find the digital resources and the tools, it's, there's so much out there. And I think that it's important that you don't just throw kids on a website because the school has a license to use it. And I think that whether a student is in first or fifth grade, if they don't have a basic understanding of phonics, they will not be able to read or comprehend text online or offline. And I just think it's important that teachers advocate for all students, but language learners especially, and be proactive in contributing to their success. That's something that I've learned so far this year. Teaching in a sheltered immersion room, I'm definitely putting in more work than I would in a regular English speaking classroom. But looking at the growth that my students have made, it so worth it. And then I just put some of like my favorites. So like for parent teacher communication, I just talked about the Remind app, Dreambox for math, and then a couple for reading. And then these are my references. And then we kind of they asked me a couple of questions. And that was really it. So that is my project. Thank you.